Hey guys, Buster here. Welcome to the 200 subscriber special. And by the time that this video is posted, we're probably at like 205 or something like that. In this video, we'll be covering a bunch of weird Sonic ports. I don't want to cover every single Sonic port because if that's the case, we'll be here for a few hours at the least. Rather, I just want to talk about the ones that I find interesting. I won't go into any specific order or details. Let's just get into this. Also, stick to the end, or alternatively, spam the right side of your phone screen for a special announcement. Now, I should mention that for most of these, I use emulation, mainly since I am not willing to spend hundreds of dollars on this one video, and you may see some footage from others because of me either struggling to get these working with emulators, or some of these games being lost media. Firstly, let's start with Sega Smash Pack for the Dreamcast. Now, this is a collection of a lot of Sega games, but the one that I am focused on is the port of Sonic 1. Wow, I'm sure you could tell from that 5-second clip of the title screen that the emulation has something wrong with it. The music sounds horrid. Listen to this. What a banger. Listen to the special stage now. Yeah, this game wants my ears to die. I also feel like mentioning the game constantly looks like it's about to collapse, but I think this might be an emulator issue, since from what I saw from footage on YouTube, it looks fine. Mostly. Now, if you can excuse the sound issue, then this is a mostly fine port, but there are better ways to play this. Now, before we move on to the next port, I feel like mentioning that if you put the CD for this game in your computer, you'll find a message from the developers of the game that basically tells you how to pirate it. I'm pretty sure this is because of how poorly the staff was treated during development. Wow, that's all I can say, really. Moving on to the next game, we have Sonic N for the N-Gage. This is a port of Sonic Advance for the GBA. Now I feel like mentioning that, for the record, the game itself is fine. It was ported over what I think is the best it could have been. Do note some features like the mini Kale Garden are missing though. Now, I don't own N-Gage myself, obviously. Though, from what I've heard, the game is really uncomfortable to play on the keypad, and I might as well get the elephant out of the room. The aspect ratio and screen crunch is a major issue. It's obvious that these levels were not made with the screen in mind. To put into context on how bad the screen crunch is, the resolution of the N-Gage was 176 by 208 pixels, with the screen size being around 2.1 inches. With the GBA flipping the aspect ratio, it's obvious that the game focused on platforming works better for a horizontal ratio than a vertical one. And the final issue I want to mention was the price. At the time, a GBA of a copy of Sonic Advance was cheaper than an N-Gage alone, and that remains true today. So, overall, not a horrible port, but you're better off just buying a used GBA and a copy of Sonic Advance. Moving on to the next, and one of the worst ones here, we have Sonic the Hedgehog Genesis for the Game Boy Advance. You would think that this port would be good because, well, if you paid attention for the last minute, I was talking about Sonic Advance and how that was a good game on the GBA. Wow! This port has so many issues. I will start with the most infamous one, the music. Make sure to put your headphones nice and high for this. As you can tell from that, the music is horrendous, but that's not the only issue. Yet again, the screen crunch is the issue. The sprites are the same resolution as the Genesis version and were not scaled down properly. Next is this the amount of bugs that really should not exist. Look at that hitbox. Sonic hovering is real now. Look at that frame rate drop. If you're like me and already have issues with Marble Zone, just wait till you try doing it on the GBA. I didn't play enough to get the lab room, but I can't imagine it's a very pleasant experience. Now, the funniest part of this game is the fact that nobody even knows who made this port. All it says is that it was made by Sega and Sonic's team. There are a few theories as to who made this port. My personal theory is that this was made by a group of people at Sonic Team who had to rush this out released, and they knew it was such a poor quality product that they didn't even want to be associated with it. Now to rub some salt in the wound, this game was released on the same day as Sonic 06, which was the same day as Sonic's 15th anniversary. In fact, this game has a lower Metacritic rating than Sonic 06. Now, I turned 15 a few days ago, but I cannot imagine being treated like this on my birthday. I'm rambling a bit here, so let's move to the next port. Alright, this one is an honorable mention before we get to the last port. Granted, if you are thinking of Sonic on the Go, you're most likely thinking of the Christian Whitehead versions released on mobile in 2013. But those ports had a bit of history before being like they are today. In 2005, released under the Sonic Cafe service, which deserves its own video, there was a version of Sonic 1 and 2 ports released on flip phones. Now, I cannot find any ROM files for this version online. It very much seems like these games are lost media. The only way I can show you any footage of this is clips I found from people that recorded their phone streams with a webcam. If anyone has a ROM file for these, please send them to me. I'll want to check them out for a video. Now for the final and worst port, we have Sonic Jam for the Tiger Gamecom. If you thought the GBA port was lousy, just look at this. The first issue is that this game does not contain Sonic 1 at all. It only contains Sonic 2, 3, and Knuckles. What a great start. The next issue is that the music is just bad. At least the GBA version attempted to make decent sounding music and failed miserably, but still. Let's consider the Gamecom is a good definition of good music. Next, we have the fact that the physics are completely broken. Sometimes you can't run up a hill or make certain jumps because of how horrible the physics are. And as for the characters, well, Sonic is your average playset, just way slower. Knuckles has no gliding ability whatsoever, and Tails has the flying ability, but it has no cap and you can fly forever. And that's really the only way you can beat this game, if anyone has beaten this game, that is. To show how horrible this was, even for 1998 standards, here is Sonic 1 for the Game Gear. It's obviously not the same as Sonic 1 for the Genesis, but it's still a fun and alright game. This was released in 1991. It's mind-blowing me that this game even exists, honestly. Well, we have made it to the end, so it's time for that announcement. We now have a Game Joe community, so make sure to join the Game Joe community and post whatever you want, granted it follows the rules. Also, follow me on there while you're at it. Love you guys, all enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. I post every Tuesday. I'll see you guys next time.